You are tired because you have been trying to keep watch over everything. Your home, your future, the people you love, the door you check twice, the phone, the message that never came. Here's something your fear keeps forgetting. You were never the watchman. A foundation has been holding under your feet that you never learned to feel. Not the willpower you keep rebuilding, not the locks, not the worry you mistake for love. It is bedrock. My word laid down before your fear had a name, older than your worst season, steadier than your shaking hands. As these words go on, hear the line this whole message is standing on. The Lord will watch over your coming and your going, now and always. Stay close, my child. Before these words are finished, I want that written promise to become the place where you stand. Come a little nearer. There is no rush in this. You have spent so long convinced that the quiet around your life meant no one was on duty, and I would like to take that thought apart slowly, the way you loosen a knot instead of yanking it. The stillness you have been reading as absence has a different name in my word. It is the texture of a place that is being kept. I see you. I know the habit you do not name out loud, the one where you rise in the night to make sure the door is bolted. I know the page on your phone where you reread an old message, hunting for the moment someone decided to leave. The mother praying for a grown child who walked out years ago has not gone unnoticed. There is a calendar inside your chest where you cross off the days nothing went wrong, as if the peace were a debt you would soon be asked to repay. None of this is hidden from me. Soften your jaw if it has been set. Take a slow breath, slower than the last one, and let the hands you did not realize were closed open a little, not as a ritual, only as a way of saying, I am still here and something has been keeping me here. That something is not a mood. It is a promise written down long before you were old enough to read it. You have been keeping a careful ledger of everything that went wrong. I understand that. Pain is loud, and loud things insist on being counted. You can name each blow by its date, each disappointment by the season it arrived. But there is a longer record you were never shown, a record of what came toward your life and turned back, a record of what was sent toward your home and never reached the door, a record of mouths that opened to speak ruin over you and closed before the sentence was finished. You read your survival as luck, or as your own cleverness, or as nothing at all. My word reads it as keeping. Hear this slowly. It is the hinge the whole message turns on. You are not standing because you have been strong enough. You are not standing because you have been careful enough. You are standing because something was laid under you that does not move. And it has not moved. Not on the days you forgot me. Not on the nights you doubted I was near. Not even in the years you walked the other way. Now I want to take apart the picture of me you have been carrying, because it has cost you more than you know. The version of me you inherited would make you the watchman of your own life. It would station you at the wall, exhausted, certain that if you blinked, the disaster would be your fault for not seeing it coming. That picture was painted by seasons that taught you to brace. It was handed to you by voices that made vigilance feel like the only love you were allowed. You learned to read silence as a father who had stepped out of the room. Set that picture down. It was not drawn from my word. It was drawn from your wound. I am not standing far off with my arms crossed, waiting to see whether you guard your perimeter well enough to earn protection. That has never been who I am. Protection is not a wage I pay you for good behavior. It is a posture I have taken toward you, and I do not change posture quickly. The covering did not lift on your worst day. It did not thin when your prayers got short. It is not a reward. It is a position, and I have taken it permanently. Grow still where you are, if you can. Do not perform anything. Place your palms somewhere you can feel the air going in and out, and just notice that stillness is even possible for you in this moment. Notice that the room around you is holding. Notice that no one has burst through the door. Notice that the next breath has already been arranged for you to take. None of that is automatic. Automatic is a word people invented to describe the things they have quietly stopped giving thanks for. There is a difference between caution and fear, and I want you to learn it while it is calm enough to learn. Caution is sober. It moves carefully because it respects what is real, and then it rests when the day is done. Fear borrows the clothes of caution because it knows you would never let it stay if it admitted its own name. The thing you have been calling responsible has, in more than one season, only been fear wearing a coat. You do not have to keep it on. You can take it off, look at it, and hand it to me. Consider how much of your strength has gone into a job that was never yours. You wake before you need to, listing what could fall apart. You rehearse conversations that may never happen, bracing for words no one has spoken. You hold the whole house up in your mind as if your attention were the beam under the roof. It is exhausting, and it is unnecessary, because the beam under the roof was set long before you arrived, and it does not depend on whether you remember to hold it. A foundation does not ask the building to carry it. It carries the building. That is the whole point of being a foundation. I want you to feel the relief hidden in that. The strength you have been spending on vigilance was always meant for living. You were never built to stand guard over your own life. You were built to dwell in it. The watchman in the psalm does not slumber, and that is true. But you are not the watchman. You took a post that was not assigned to you, and you have held it so long that letting go feels like negligence. It is not negligence. It is finally trusting the one whose job it actually is. Let me walk you out a little further from yourself now, because the covering is not only over your skin, it is over the people you love. Those whose phone calls you are sometimes afraid to answer. Those whose names you check the news for. Those who walk out their own doors carrying things they never tell you about. I have been with them. Not in a way that interferes with their freedom. In a way that interferes with their ruin. Think of one name now. The one whose face came up first when I said the word love. There has been a wall around that one too. There has been a delay placed on the things that would have undone that one. A delay long enough for me to do with delays what I do, which is to fill them. You have prayed for that person and felt the prayer fall short. It did not fall short. A prayer brought to me does not fall short. It widens into a boundary. The stretch of ordinary days for the person you love is not the silence of an unanswered prayer. It is the answer. Wearing the plain clothes of an ordinary day. Let me speak about your home too. Your four walls. The corners of rooms. The doorway you pass through without thinking. The chair where the late light falls across the floor. I have not been a guest there who slips out when the lamps go dark. Where my people are, my presence settles in for the long stay. That is why coming home, on most days, feels a little like exhaling. That is why even when there is conflict inside the rooms, something underneath the conflict holds. The walls are not only walls. They have been blessed quietly, without fanfare, without anyone in the household having to qualify for it, because the ones inside belong to me, and where what is mine lives, my care comes to rest. The same is true for the people who share that home with you, those whose footsteps you know by sound, those who learned your moods and stopped commenting on them. Some of them are difficult, I know. Some have hurt you in ways you have not finished forgiving. The boundary still holds for them, because the boundary is for the whole household, and the household includes the difficult ones. I am not asking you to pretend the difficulty is not real. I am asking you to notice that even the difficult ones are being shaped, slowly, by their nearness to a place I have been keeping. When the line was drawn around you, it was drawn wide. I did not measure it to the size of your loneliness. I measured it to the size of the love you would one day carry, and so it took in the people you had not yet met, the faces that would matter to you later, the ones you would learn to pray for. The boundary was generous from the beginning, and it still is. You have spent seasons feeling like you stood alone inside a small circle. The circle was never small. You simply had not learned how far it reached. And the boundary reaches backward as well as outward. Some of you carry a sense that protection was for other people, that the keeping skipped your house, your family, your line. Look again. The fact that you are here, reading this, capable of longing for something better, is itself evidence that the keeping did not skip you. You survived seasons that should have ended you. You came through rooms that broke other people. You are not the exception to the promise. You are a living line of it, still being written. There is something you need to understand about the way I work, because it has been the source of so much of your confusion. Dramatic rescue is not the only kind of rescue. It is the smallest part of it. Most of what I do for you, you will never see. A visible deliverance is a tiny percentage of the work. The rest is quiet. The rest looks like nothing happening. It looks like a plain afternoon. It is the storm that did not form, the meeting that did not go badly, the message that was never sent, the hand raised against you and lowered before it landed. If I showed you the whole of it at once, you would not have eyes for that much grace. So I keep most of it, and one day you will see all of it, and you will understand why you spent so many years afraid of nothing. I would like to read you something now. Not a new secret meant only for you. A line that has been written for a very long time, kept for the tired ones who were sure they stood unguarded. There was a worship song carried up the hills toward Jerusalem, sung by ordinary people climbing toward a place they hoped was safe. They looked up at the high ground around them and the dangers it could hide. They were not theologians. They were travelers who knew how it felt to be small under a wide sky, far from home, unsure what was waiting in the hills. And into that climb, into that exact fear of the open road, this promise was written for them. It is written for you with the same ink. This is what is written. Psalm 121, 7-8. The Lord will keep you from all harm. He will watch over your life. The Lord will watch over your coming and your going, both now and forevermore. Read it slowly. He will keep you. Not he might. Not he will if your faith is impressive enough today. He will keep. Then notice the reach of it, the part fear always skips over. Your coming and your going. Both directions, the road you walk out on and the road you walk home on, covered by the same hand. This is not a promise of a flat and painless road. It is a promise that the one who walks it has measured it, and that what is being kept is your life, your very self, not merely your circumstances. Read the small word near the end, too. Forevermore. The keeping does not run out when this season ends. It does not rise and fall with the weather of your mood or the strength of your grip. It was settled. It is the kind of promise my son sealed when he stood in your place, so that your belonging would never again rest on your performance. The wall is not your effort. The wall is my will, and my will toward you is steady, and my will toward you is good. Notice what the promise does not say, because that matters too. It does not say you will be spared every hard road. It does not promise a life without grief or struggle or loss. It promises keeping. There is a difference between a hard road and an abandoned one, and the psalm knows it. A difficult day is not a breach in the wall. It is a feature of walking through a world that is still being healed. What I am promising you is not a flat path. I am promising that the path at every turn has already been walked by the one who keeps you, and that what reaches you has passed through his hands first. So when the hard day comes, and it will, do not read it as proof that the keeping failed. Read it as the kind of thing the promise was made for. The promise was never for the easy seasons, when you hardly think of me. It was written for the climb, for the open road, for the traveler under the wide sky who is not sure what waits in the hills. It was written for the version of you who is tired and unsure and quietly afraid. That is exactly who I wrote it for. Not the theologians, the tired ones. Now look back at what I told you at the beginning. A foundation has been holding under your feet that you never learned to feel. Here is the answer the whole message was walking toward. The reason your heart keeps reading the silence as exposure is that no one ever taught you to recognize the sound of a wall that has not been breached. The quiet was never the absence of a guard. The quiet was the guard, awake, with no need to shout. You were not unprotected for a single hour. You were standing on something kept, written into a promise older than your enemies and older than your fears. If this devotional is reaching the place in you that has been afraid to set down the watch, and you want a small way to mark this moment, write the word kept below. And while you are there, you will find 7 letters waiting in the pinned comment above, one for each of the next 7 mornings. Take them. Some of what you filed under failure was the keeping holding, a door that closed in your face, a relationship that never quite began, an opportunity that slipped past your hands and left you with nothing to point at. You read those events as rejection. I'm asking you to read them again, gently. I'm not romanticizing your pain. The losses you carry are real losses, and I have grieved them beside you. But not every loss was a wound. Some were a saving that looked from where you were standing, like the opposite of a saving. You were too close to me to be allowed to keep what was not for you. You may ask, with a grief I do not dismiss, why I did not simply explain it at the time. The honest answer is that the explanation would have undone the keeping. If I had told you in the moment that I was moving something out of your path, you would have argued. You would have begged me to leave it. You would have held tighter than was wise. So I did the work without the explanation, and I asked you to trust without seeing. The trust without seeing is the very thing that lets me work. There are things that did not happen to you that you will not learn about in this life. A sickness you never caught, an accident you were not in, a wrong turn you almost took and did not, because something inside you that you did not recognize as me said, wait. I have often been that hesitation, the half-second of reluctance that put you in a different lane, the small unwillingness that kept the message in your drafts instead of sending it, the quiet pull that made you turn around and go back into the house. None of those moments looked like rescues. Many of them were. You filed them under nothing happened, and nothing happening was the answer. One day, on the far side of this life, you will be shown the parts of your story I kept from you for your own sake. You will see the harm that came close and did not land. You will see the mornings you woke unaware that you had been spared something in the night. And I do not think you will weep from sadness. I think you will weep from the sheer size of a love you only ever saw in fragments. I am preparing you gently to be able to receive that much grace without breaking. The way I prepare you is by teaching you to notice the quiet guarding now, the ordinary protections, the uneventful days. Practice noticing them. It gets easier. The eye that learns to read the small mercies will be ready in the end to behold the whole of them. There's a strain that comes from believing the protection depends on you, the ache of pretending to be your own watchman, the exhaustion of scanning every horizon for the threat you are sure is coming. I am lifting that strain off your shoulders, not because you have finally learned to ask correctly, because the post was never yours to fill. The keeper of your life does not grow tired. He does not need a second pair of eyes that have to blink. You blinking has been holding you awake for years at a duty I never assigned you. You can step down. You can sit. You can hand the watching back to the one who never sleeps. I want to name a habit without shame, because you have carried it long enough. You scan the headlines looking for proof that the world is closing in. You reopen old wounds to check whether they have changed shape since the last time you checked. You reread the messages, hunting for the evidence that you are about to be left. You do this because at some point you decided that vigilance was the same as love. That if you ever stopped scanning, the bad thing would be your fault. I know where that habit was born. I'm not blaming you for it. I'm only asking you to see what it has been costing you and what it has been costing me, because every hour you spend doing the work I never gave you is an hour I cannot spend handing you the rest I bought for you. I also want to speak to the fear that came down to you through your family, because it lives in the bones of some of you, and you did not put it there yourself. You inherited the worry that ran through your mother. You inherited the bracing that ran through your father. You inherited a readiness for impact that ran through people whose specific stories you will never know. That inheritance is not the final word over you. The foundation under your feet runs deeper than the fear that was handed down. What was passed to you can stop with you. You may be the first one in your line to live on the bedrock with your eyes open. And the ones who come after you, whether by blood or by love, will inherit a different default. They will inherit the quiet assumption of safety because you learned to live inside one. So here is something small you can carry into the rest of your week. When the fear comes back, and it will visit, do not argue with it. Do not lecture it. Just point quietly to the promise. Say it under your breath, low enough that only I can hear it. The keeping holds. You may not feel different the 10th time you do it, but somewhere around the 30th time you will notice things you did not expect. You reach for the locks a little less. You look up from the worst case a little sooner. Your day begins with something other than dread. The eye that learns to see what is quietly kept is being made ready to see the whole. You do not have to get this perfect. That is part of the relief, too. What holds you is not a fragile thing you might break by doubting it on a hard afternoon. Doubt it, and it holds. Forget it for a week, and it holds. Come back to it embarrassed at how long you stayed away, and you will find it exactly where it was, unmoved, with your name still on the inside of the line. A foundation does not flinch when the one standing on it trembles. It was made to be steady precisely so that you would not have to be. Carry one picture with you too, because images stay when arguments leave. Picture a field at dusk. It has been worked all day. Now it is resting. There is a fence around it. Not tall, not dramatic. Just enough to mark what is inside from what is outside. The fence stood there long before the field was planted. It will still be standing long after this season has passed. Inside the fence, things grow. Outside, things move past. Most of what you have feared is not coming for you. It is passing through the larger field of the world, close enough to frighten you, but not aimed at you. Not everything painful is kept from you, but nothing reaches the deepest part of you outside my knowledge, my mercy, and my final authority. The fence is not built from your effort. It is built from a promise that was written before you were born. Hold that image when the noise starts. The enemy of your peace is loud, but loud is not the same as strong. Noise is not authority. A threat is not an outcome. The thing that screams at you in the small hours is announcing what it wishes were true, not what is true. What is true was settled by a promise, and the promise has not been revoked. Your name is on the inside of the boundary. The boundary holds. Let the noise be noise. It cannot cross a line it did not draw and cannot move. You are inside the fence. The growing is happening to you. The passing is what you have been mistaking for threat. When the fear returns, place yourself, in your mind, inside that quiet edge of the field, and notice that the quiet is not because nothing is happening. The quiet is because what is happening to you is different from what is happening past you. That difference is the whole gift. That difference is the keeping, made small enough to hold in a single picture. Trust, in the end, is not a feeling that arrives and settles your stomach. Trust is a decision to stop doing the watching for me. It is the willingness to live inside a keeping you cannot inspect, to go about your day without auditing the boundary every hour. The boundary is not yours to audit. It is mine to maintain. And while you have been straining to inspect it, you have been missing the very thing it was built to give you, which is the freedom to actually live. Live, then. Do the next ordinary thing without auditing the perimeter. Make the call you have been delaying. Eat the meal in front of you slowly. Speak gently to the person you live with. Write the message you owe someone. Show up where you said you would show up. None of that is small. All of it is the life I have been guarding, and the life is the point. The protection exists so that the living can happen. Do not waste the keeping by withholding the life. And on the days the old fear comes roaring back, the days the wall feels invisible and the silence feels like a verdict, do not argue your way out of it. Just return to the line that was written for the climb. Point to it. Stand on it. Let it hold the weight your own reasoning was never strong enough to hold. The keeping does not require your belief to function, but your believing is how you finally come to rest inside it. You were not made to spend your one life bracing. You were made to dwell, secure, on something that does not move. The keeping holds. Your trembling did not weaken it. Your forgetting did not cancel it. The years you walked away did not erase it. The losses you grieved did not reach past it. It was laid before you arrived. It has not been redrawn since, and it will be standing at the edge of every road still ahead of you. Amen. If this devotional gave your heart a little room to breathe, stay near and subscribe so the next reflection can find you. There are 7 free letters waiting in the pinned comment below, one for each of the next 7 mornings. Take them. Pass this to someone whose perimeter you have been worried about, and let the promise do its quiet work. Peace over your home and over the road in front of you, which has already been measured.